I'm great, guys. How are you doing today?
Good. Are you insulted there's no Michael today, or are you cool with that?
Yeah, taking a little time off. You know, we all need it sometimes.
Yes.
It'll be considerably better, I think, Mark, without the old man around. You know what I mean?
That's what the word has been around town, that this Thursday at 5 o'clock, you're going to have the best show you've ever had.
Wow. See? I'm glad people are telling you the truth. You already sound looser than usual.
Yes.
Because the narc is gone. You know what I mean? We can have a good time.
That's a good point.
Right. Think about it. It's like when your parents leave you away for the weekend. Me and Mark are...
Substitute teacher.
Exactly. You never know what's going to happen.
Wait a second!
So a little standing on the desk, throwing spitballs. It's going to be that kind of segment. I'm looking forward to it. But it hasn't been fun for Dellin Betances, Mark, and I think there's got to be legitimate concern. He's your setup guy. This bullpen was supposed to be special, and you've got a pitcher that just cannot throw strikes right now. He can't hold runners on. Unless he gets a clean inning, it's an adventure. What do you do about it?
Yeah, it's pretty tough to watch right now. And right now, I think what you have to do is really lock in on his mechanics. Something's mechanically wrong right now with Dellin. Listen, he's a big guy. He's 6'8". He's got a lot going on. He doesn't have the most picture-perfect delivery as it is. And you got to figure out, if you're Larry Rothschild or the Yankees coaching staff, you got to figure out something is off that needs to be fixed right away.
So what do you do? Because you can't not pitch him. You can't work on the side. I mean, this is something that has to be worked on in pivotal moments of games.
Yeah, well, you have to figure out what can allow you to throw strikes. So that's number one. I mean, if he was getting hit, I think we'd just be saying, hey, he's in a little bit of slump. He's getting hit right now, but he's walking guys left and right. I think it's 20 guys in his last 10 innings. You can't have that. I don't care if you're a starter, reliever. College baseball, they wouldn't allow you to go out there with those type of numbers. So, whatever it is, whether it's your fastball or your slider, to get strike one, I mean, sometimes that's all you need. Like, hey, Dellin, get strike one, and then now you're in control. But he seems to be, really just searching for his mechanics right now, and the ball's going all over the place.
Mark, is this like, are we in panic mode about the Yankees, or are they just sort of evening out to where they were supposed to be this season?
Yeah, I think everybody I've talked to over the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks in this tough skid they've had, I think they've lost 16 of 22. I think everyone's saying, this is kind of the Yankees coming back to earth. Now, that being said, if you look at the talent that is still on the roster, forget about the injuries. When the guys come back that are hurt, and you have maybe a Tanaka that's bouncing back, and you have Luis Severino continuing to stay hot, and Montgomery continuing to stay hot, you still have a great team. You still have a roster that can get to the playoffs, and who knows what happens after the playoffs. So, yeah, I hear all these people talking about the Yankees coming back down to earth, but, outside expectations mean nothing inside that clubhouse.
Right.
This team feels like, I think this team truly believes that when they get healthy, they can still contend.
I saw a stat during the game yesterday, Mark, I'm not sure if you saw it, that right now Aaron Judge is on pace to strike it over 200 times. Only 9 players have ever done that. And the highest batting average of a 200 strikeout batter was 262. He could actually hit 330 and strike out 200 times. How is that possible? Like, is he just a special human being, or is that telling you the direction the game's going into?
I think it tells us both. First of all, he is an absolute special human being. I mean, I think all of the statisticians and sabermetrics and all that gets thrown out the window when you're talking about a guy who is, I mean, all kidding aside, he's twice as strong as most players in baseball. I mean, I felt like I was a pretty big, strong guy playing during my career. He's got 60 pounds of muscle on me. I mean, think about that.
Right.
Think about how much stronger he is than everybody else. So I think he can do things that no one's ever done before in this game. The question is, is he going to keep this pace up? The game has a way of making adjustments. And in the second half of the season, our pitcher is going to start making a little bit better adjustments. Baseball is going to more of the 3 true outcome game. And can he keep up this high average? He's still going to hit his home runs. He's still going to drive it in his runs. But is he a 330 hitter? I think we'll have to wait and see, where he lands at the end of September.
Now, if he ends up not being 330 and drops his batting average, is that going to come with even more strikeouts?
It might. I'm not going to bet against Aaron Judge right now just because what he's done the first half of the season is so impressive. But again, the question is can you sustain that type of production striking out so much? And we'll find out. I'm not going to predict anything, but we'll find out if strikeouts, if you can still hit over 300 with those type of strikeouts.
Obviously, let's talk about what really matters in baseball, and that is the home run derby. Took time for us to know whether or not Aaron Judge would participate. Now it turns out we not only get Judge, we get Sanchez as well. And this week, Logan Morrison of the Rays complained about that, saying that, this is a guy who already has 24 home runs. Sanchez has significantly less. Of course, if you add it up going back to last season, Sanchez actually has more home runs. But is there a reasonable claim here for people to be upset that just because you're maybe in a smaller market, you don't get in spite of the fact of having more home runs, and now you have two representatives from the Yankees?
No, I think Logan is a little bit off base here. He's a likable guy, but he's a little bit of a knucklehead. And I think people around the game would probably tell you that. They like him as a guy, but he sometimes says things that he probably shouldn't. And sitting back, he's not even on the team right now, is he? On the AllStar team?
No.
So that's my first case. You're not even on the AllStar team here, dude. Take a step back and just kind of be humble and say, I'm having a great first half of the season. I'm happy about where I am. If they asked me to go to the AllStar game, I would be humbled. If they asked me to do the home run derby, I'd be humbled. That's what people want to hear. I don't think that, listen, Gary Sanchez is a bigger star than Logan Morrison. That's just the fact of the matter. Gary Sanchez is an MVP caliber player. He plays in New York. He plays a premium position. Gary is a guy that people will tune in to watch in the home run derby. And I'm not saying Logan couldn't win it. He probably could win the entire thing, but so could 100 other guys.
Right.
There's 100 guys in baseball. I bet Ichiro could probably win that thing. If you guys have seen him take batting practice. So it's just kind of a silly argument. It's going to go away here in a few days.
No, I understand that. And listen, I can't speak to Logan Morrison. You probably know or spoke to people who know him better than I do. But listening to his comments, it sounded to me like it was coming from a place of, well, this is life in Tampa. I play for the Tampa Rays. And now you had a career where you never really played for a small market team. You played for the Yankees. Texas Rangers were, a pretty big market. Obviously, Atlanta, they were on the Superstation at the time. And, all right, the Angels probably played second fiddle to the Dodgers, but you're playing, outside of L.A. But do you sometimes feel for the guys in Tampa and San Diego and Milwaukee that really sometimes get lost in the shuffle because they don't play for the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Mets, and the Dodgers?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And I can feel for Logan and for guys like Evan Longoria. If you remember a couple years ago, the Rays were in first place, and Evan Longoria is saying, we're still getting 8,000 fans per game. What's going on here, guys? Step up and show up to this game. We're in first place. So I feel for those guys because I think as an athlete, when you put your heart and soul into a season, you just want your fans to care. And that's what I always loved about New York is whether you were cheering me or booing me, you cared. And I went to the ballpark every day with a sense of purpose that I was either going to make someone's day or ruin someone's day. Either way, I can live with it because people care.
All right, you look at the Mets, and we're talking to Mark Teixeira's weekly spot.
Why are you doing this?
Well, why not?
Bring up the Mets? We're having a good day.
I have to do a show here with somebody that has no problem telling me when he doesn't like my question or the direction I'm going. But I'm going to go with the Mets because they have a fan base, and some Met fans want to believe that they could still make it. Granderson, when healthy, has actually played better. Bruce has over 20 home runs. Duda, I think, is a marketable commodity. What do you do here on July 6th, Mark? Do you ride it out to see if you can maybe make something of this season, or do you strike while the iron's hot and start moving some of these free agents while they're playing well?
I think everyone on that team is movable right now. Maybe not, Syndergaard, DeGrom, Conforto. But other than that, everybody on this team is movable. And if someone steps up with a nice prospect package or a controllable piece for the next few years, you take that deal. Because let's look at where the Mets are right now in the standings, and let's look at the teams that are ahead of them. you have a team in the L.A. Dodgers that might be the best Dodger team in the history of the L.A. Dodgers. That's how good this team is when they're healthy. The Washington Nationals, stack up the Nationals against the Mets right now, man-to-man. It's not even a comparison. The Nationals are a better team. So if I'm the Mets, no, you never give up on a season. Absolutely not. That they have some talent in that clubhouse. They have a front office and a fan base that cares. But at the same time, if someone calls you about Granderson, calls you about Duda, calls you about somebody else that might get you a few prospects, you take that call, you make that trade, and you say, hey, we're building for the future. That's what the Yankees did last year. And a lot of people are really excited about the young crop of players coming in because Brian Cashman made those deals.
Well, you mentioned Washington, and the only problem I have with them, Mark, is that their bullpen stinks. I mean, they can't win a championship with this bullpen. So if you're Dusty Baker, if you're the players on that team, are there legitimate complaints that management's not doing enough to correct it?
Yes, you have to get out there and get yourself one or two bullpen guys. I mean, I don't know who they are exactly, but there's 1,000 ball players in the big leagues right now. Every single one of them is, for the right deal is available. There's only a handful of guys out there that you can say, I would never trade this guy, but there's a whole bunch of good relievers out there that for the right deal could be on the Washington Nationals by the end of the month. And I got to think that with Bryce Harper only having a year left, with Strasburg being healthy this year, and you're getting Max Scherzer maybe at the best he's ever been. You have Daniel Murphy, you have Rendon, you have Zimmerman. You have all these guys that are playing at their peak level of performance. You've got to go out and make this the year. If the Nationals don't win it this year, there's no guarantee they're going to be in the same position next year. So you go out and get those relievers.
All-Star Week next week in Miami. You're a three-time All-Star. What is the experience like for players? And I'm sure it varies depending on where you are in your life and with your family, et cetera. But you got any fun All-Star stories, Mark?
Yeah, it's an absolute blast. I mean, I was lucky enough to play in 3 All-Star games, and my first and my last were 10 years apart, which was pretty cool to be able to play as a young player, 25, with no kids. It was just my wife and I, and my dad came to the game. And then 10 years later, I have my entire family. My 3 kids are on the field watching the home run derby. So those experiences, you'll never forget it. I think that for a position player that's grinding out a season, you definitely want to take it easy when you're at the All-Star game. I mean, don't be going out and taking extra batting practice and going out every single night, and because guess what? You have 1 day off or 2 days off, and you're back into the grind. I remember my first All-Star game. I was exhausted when I came back for the second half. I mean, I think I probably went like 1 for 20 my first couple of weeks, but it had nothing to do with the home run derby, but everything to do with, just trying to live up every single, soak in every single ounce of that game. I hit a home run off Dontrell Willis in that game and was on cloud 9. And then, Thursday hits and I'm in Oakland facing Mark Mulder and go 0 for 4. It's like, okay, here's reality. You got to play a season again.
Yeah, the one change I think they made that was a good one is giving everybody Thursday off as well, so you don't have to go back into work until that Friday, so you maybe get a chance to hit the reset button. Mark, they finally did away with the whole home field advantage stuff, but did you ever play in those games thinking, I want to win this game so that my league gets home field in the World Series?
You know what? In 2009, after I'd signed with the Yankees, it was in the back of my mind, like, hey, the Yankees signed me because they thought they were one piece away from the World Series. I think we were maybe 3 games out of first place at the All-Star break that year behind Boston. Boston, if you guys remember, it had our number the first half of the season. So in the back of my mind, you're saying, hey, I kind of want to win this game because it'd be nice to have home field advantage. And listen, it ended up helping. We won that game. I think Mariano Rivera closed out that game for us, which was kind of, fitting for Mo's career and for us to win the World Series that year in our home ballpark. It was kind of neat that the All-Star game helped that, but I don't think it's going to change the way that guys actually play the game.
All right, Mark, let's close it out with some text messages. Some fans wanted to get involved and ask you a couple of questions. This one's kind of a hard one, so I hope you're ready. I'm not even sure if I can even think of an answer to this. Ariel from Flatbush, New York asks, why is an RBI ground out considered 0 for 1, but a sacrifice fly is not an official at bat.
Yeah, so I think the idea here is that you can try to hit a fly ball to the outfield and kind of give yourself up, and that's a positive. You did your job. You flew out. You got the ball to the outfield. If you hit a little weak grounder, you shouldn't get credit for that, or you should be punished for that. I'm not saying it's the right rule, but I think the original ruling of scorekeeping, that's what it was, is a long fly out or any type of fly out that gets the runner in is a better at bat than a weak grounder just to get the run in.
And I would wonder if the official scorer, I guess he could do this if it was in the rules, that if I'm a light hitting eighth batter and there's a runner at second, nobody out, and I'm clearly trying to hit to the right side to move over to third, shouldn't the official scorer be able to say that's what he was trying to do? I'm going to give him a sacrifice, even though he didn't bunt, but clearly he was trying to hit the ball to first or second base to move the runner over.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that's definitely a part of the game. I mean, you give yourself up a lot during a long season. There's probably maybe power hitters not as much because you want them to drive in runs, but unless you're a power hitter, you're giving yourself up probably 20 times a year. In different situations, just trying to get that runner over, and that adds up on your average.
All right, Matt in Little Neck, what city did you always look forward to being in when the team was on the road?
Seattle. Seattle's always my favorite road city to go to. My early days with Texas, playing in the West, really enjoyed going there. My wife would always go and travel with me to Seattle. Great food. One of the coolest ballparks, especially in the summertime when it was open and the weather was nice in Seattle. You got Mount Rainier in the background and just one of those special places. I always hit well there, which I think helped. But Seattle's definitely my tops.
And Safeco's like one of the best ballparks in the league, right?
It still is. I mean, I think it's like 15, 16 years old now, and it's still one of the best ballparks out there. It still looks brand new. The fans are great. They're very knowledgeable fans. And, they've had some good teams there. They haven't been to the playoffs in a long time. But my first few years with Texas, they had some really good teams when Ichiro was in his prime, and Edgar Martinez, Raul Ibanez, and some of those players, Brett Boone. Those were some fun games.